Generation Drag Genesis comes out in a few days, and with the Cray Cross Epic story finally coming to its conclusion, this may be the last booster set that actually focuses on these Cray Cross Epic decks. So for today, we're going to do our final, possibly, Cray Cross Epic review. So we'll start with the Fire Regalis. That is the new Regalis piece being released in this set, and of course is the card that's been mentioned throughout the entirety of the lore and literally is printed on all of the glitter cards as they're all seeking the Fire Regalis. We now know what that is, at least in a TCG form. It's a normal order that is a Regalis piece. You can only play one of these throughout the course of the game, and you can only have one of these listed in your deck at all time. This card also has a continuous ability that says you can't actually play this card. In order to activate its effect, you have to, from hand or from drop, use its act effect to remove it from the game. Then you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and you choose one card. If not, you can choose not to reveal one card, so it's up to 1. Then you just shuffle your deck and draw one card. If you do reveal one card, depending on what the card is, you can either A, if it's a glitter card, you can add it to your hand, or B, you can call it out to the field if it's grade less than or equal to your Vanguard. This is without a doubt the strongest Regalis piece that has been released in the game. Strongest might be a bit of a exaggeration, but it is definitely the one that is more suitable for every deck and usable in every single situation, right? Previously, I think the strongest Regalis piece was maybe something like Forbidadol that allows a lot of things to happen for a lot of different decks. While that is still maybe true, Forbidadol doesn't work in every single deck, whereas the Fire Regalis here literally can be put in just about every single deck except the ones that want to use specifically Forbidadol to get their grade 4. I think that's about it, or decks that maybe use normal orders, but actually no, not even those, because this card cannot be played, so it doesn't actually take up your order from the turn. So you're instead using its act ability, not its played ability, so you don't play an order. So you can use this and then still play an order that turn. So this literally fits in every single deck, and looking at top 5 to call anything is still a good enough effect, especially if you can activate this from drop or free. I've never actually done a Regalis review in one of these types of videos, but in general we're going to change up how this video works. So I'm just going to give you a thumbs up, meh, or thumbs down, essentially, and this gets an easy thumbs up. After that, we have each of the Cray Cross Epic decks, minus Michu of course, because she's never actually included in these for whatever reason, getting a single card of support in the form of an order, except for Rorowa, who actually got a brand new form and a brand new card. So this is going to be skewed a little bit more towards him in terms of the review, but we'll start with his brand new form here in Crossing Interdimensional Thoughts Rorowa. This has a plethora of effects here. First, it has a continuous that if your opponent's Vanguard is greater or greater, all of your tokens get 5k, and the additional red text ability that when your Vanguard is attacked, you can retire the token and give your Vanguard 5k power. So this is given to the token specifically, not the Vanguard. So I believe if you use those crappy cyclers from set 4 that turn off auto abilities, you can turn off the ability for the tokens to retire and give 5k. Then it has another effect that says, act once per turn, you can Energy Blast 3, draw 1, call up to 2 plant tokens. Which, you know, might look like a bit of a step down from the original War that calls out 3 tokens, and the brand new Verdant Flash, I shouldn't say brand new, but the newer Verdant Flash Rorowa that I believe also called out 3, but also gave the ability to draw afterwards. But given how the next card we're going to look at works, this is perfectly fine. Then we have a skill that says here, also act once per turn. You can choose 1 glitter from either your rearguard circle or from your soul, put it on the bottom of your deck, then perform one of the following based on the name of that card. If you choose a card with Rorowa, you can choose one of your opponent's units, and well, I should say one of their rear guards. You can't just take their Vanguard and bot deck it. You can choose one of their rear guards, put it on the bottom of the deck. If you choose Raylinda, you can take that Raylinda and then grab a card with grade 1 less than it from your deck and call it. You can also search from your drop. So both of these effects are pretty good, and if they seem sort of out of place, it's because of Rorowa's connection with the Kronos Command Dragon that you can see here listed in the back of the art as they do their sort of JoJo style pose here. And he's basically, you know, as a stand, he's imbued some of Gear Chronicles power onto Rorowa, which allows him to bot deck an opponent's rearguard, and also to, I guess, whatever the opposite of Time Leap is, because he's one grade less, or is Time Leap, why would Time Leap be one grade more, or one grade less if you're leaping? Anyways, this allows you to take your grade 3 Raylinda, and once she's done her effect and you call her from hand, you can swap her back out for the grade 2 that allows you to have the multi-attack with Momoke, and also the passing of power and whatnot, which is, you know, pretty decent. And of course, this is still a glitter that seeks the Fire Regalis. The other card that Rorowa got is Wings That Break the Shell Momoke here. So Momoke is now a main deck card. It's no longer a token, quote unquote. It's a main deck card, and it is a dual nation card with Dragon Empire and Stoicheia. So this card cannot be called to Rearguard Circle except by its own ability. And if you do call it out, it counts as a Momoke token. The only way they can call this out is if you already have a Momoke token and your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, then you can retire that original Momoke token in order to call this card out from hand or draw. Also, when this is placed on rear, you can retire another one of your rear guards to retire one of your opponent's rear guards. All of these effects are not locked to a specific Vanguard or Rorowa, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if there's really anything that in Stoicheia or in Dragon Empire that wants to be able to call out a Momoke token and then be able to retire or something. But hey, the option exists, I guess. Then it has this glitter effect that you can only use when your Vanguard is Rorowa, where a Raylinda in the same column, if they're both in the same column as it was before, you don't have another Momoke, you can have this unit attack from the back row, and if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, he gets 10k power. He no longer eats your tokens, but he is 10k base now as opposed to the original 5k, and he can get an additional 5k from Rorowa, and then an additional 10k from its skill. So you kind of don't need to eat your rear guards anymore, which is a bit unfortunate because that was kind of like the main playstyle of the deck, and that's kind of just been gone, and it's instead just been streamlined to just give him the attack anyways. Rorowa also got one more card here in Flourishing Hope, which is a normal order that says you can only play this if you have Rorowa. You put this card into your soul after you play it, then you look at the top 7, reveal a glitter from among those, and put into your hand, shuffle your deck. This is alright. Spoiler alert, I don't think this will be seeing any play for the moment, but this is pretty, you know, pretty decent. It kind of works like the Raylinda order that searches out Raylinda, but that I think directly searches her out. That one does have a cost, whereas like this literally gives you a resource, right? So it's a bit interesting. If this was all Rorowa got, that'd be kind of interesting, but he did not. As you know, I kind of lied a little bit. All of the Cray Cross Epic decks did get one more card, right? Which is just a rare card that specifically works with glitters. So here we have Nurturing Watering Itachisnela, which is a card that is in every single nation, or version of this card is in every single nation, except of course for Lyrical. And this just says when this is placed from hand specifically onto rear, if your Vanguard is a glitter, you can look at the top 5 for another glitter. Same could be the same as your Vanguard, just a glitter card. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. And if you did so, you put this card into your soul. These are pretty interesting because they just allow you to get your glitter partners or even your persona rights, because they all have, you know, glitter on the they have the glitter keyword. So it allows you to add, like, you know, Mekanis, either grade 1s or 3s, or your Kheios if you play, like, let's say the original one, or your Soul and Terion for whatever reason you want to add that, right? Just as a quick example. And for Rorowa, this technically works for all 3 of the Rorowas, right? Even if you play, I guess, the right deck ones in main deck, you can use that too. But it works for all the Raylinda and also the Momoke, right? So you have a lot of targets you can hit with this, and then the card does go into Soul to generate some Soul. So with all of that said, Rorowa, for whatever reason, is the only one that is getting a quote-unquote promo in the future. I say quote-unquote because it doesn't actually mention him specifically, but it was, to my knowledge, advertised or marketed as a Rorowa card. And that is the Spinning Caroleo Herminius here, who says that when it's placed on rear, over a token unit specifically, you can look at the top 5 of your deck, choose either a glitter or an order that's not a Regalis piece, from among them, put it into your hand. It's kind of exactly the same as the rare that we just looked up, just kind of different. It doesn't go to soul, and it can search in order, but not a Regalis piece, which is kind of weird because the Fire Regalis is for the glitters technically. And anyways, then it says that when it attacks, if you have a token unit on your regular circle anywhere, this is gonna get 5k attack. Maybe all of the decks will get a card like this that's a little bit more specific to their playstyle, right? Because this involves tokens. Maybe we'll get one for Eva that has to do with set orders or something. I don't know, but it exists, or it will exist in the future. So with all that said, what does a build look like for Rorowa? So fun fact, I've actually been planning to do this video a long time ago when they actually revealed these cards, and I decided to, because of scheduling and a bunch of stuff were happening, I was like, I'll take a break and I'll do it for the English release instead. Back then, I tested out the decks very quickly and built some initial builds of what I thought maybe the deck would play like, and then for this video, I recently just looked up and I did some like research really quickly to see what Japan ended up actually playing, and maybe adjusted my list a tiny bit. All of them except for Rorowa, because I can just not wrap my head around that deck. But there was a topping list for Rorowa that I found in VG Paradox that looked a little bit something like this. I changed the overtrigger because they were using the Thegrea overtrigger. Instead, I like using the red OT for Rorowa because it allows you to, with the Momoke, have 400 million, 4 attacks that are 100 million power. Whereas like with the Thegrea overtrigger, only one of them, you have one less 100 million attack, but you do get the crit, the extra drawn, right? So makes sense. But here's what the deck looks like. We are no longer playing the Vividescence Flash Rorowa anymore. We're just focusing on the brand new Rorowa. So no skip ride needed, no $20 promo needed. I expect that to drop down in price dramatically. I've also forced myself for the other decks, I forced myself to use their brand new order because that is literally the only support that they got in the Regalis piece. Here, I did not use any copies of the order. And as you can see, the list is pretty cut and dry, right, in terms of what it wants to do. We're just getting into Rorowa using the Raylene and Momoke combo for the entirety of the game, and that's it. Everything else is just to help the deck out function, right? We have the this order to just search out any of our Raylindas. We have the cyclers to just discard and, you know, get some cards back for turn. We have this girl to search out all of our glitters, and that's it. We have this to get tokens, which you don't really need anymore, but you can use that for the early game and also to get some soul as well, since Raylina is still Soul Blast 1. And that's kind of it. It's pretty basic build. I'm not saying this is the best build specifically for Rorowa because I didn't look too much into it, but that's kind of what I feel like might work out. I tested it a little bit. I get the general gist of it. With that said, with all that, what do I think of what end stage Rorowa looks like? I gotta say, I'm gonna have to give this a meh, almost even a thumbs down. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like they took a lot of the cool aspects of the deck and sort of trimmed it down to its most basics aspects, and I don't know. I feel like they could have. I don't really know. I haven't been able to play the deck as much, so I don't know if I can say this, but I feel like I find the previous version of the deck way more interesting and had a lot more different things that I can do. Whereas like this feels a lot more cut and dry, a lot more simple, while still kind of doing the same things, but in like a more boring way, if that makes sense. So personally, I'm kind of meh about the new Rorowa and his support cards. With that said, let's take a look at Tamayura, who only got a single card here, which is a normal order that also finally happens to be a Fox art. This card is rather simple. You can only play this if you have Tamayura. It is a grade 1, so you can search this with your grade 1 ride line, because it's Fox art now, and then immediately play it. It says you put this into soul, so that's good, it generates soul. Look at the top 7, choose up to 1 card that is not a sentinel, and is either a Rirami, or stealth card in its name, reveal it, put it to your hand. Real unfortunate that you can't just search out a sentinel. That would have made this card a lot better, would have made the deck a lot better, while not, I'm pretty sure, not making it insanely broken, because you can't like recycle the sentinels, but whatever. Then finally she has a skill in, or this order has a skill in drop, where if your Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, you can Energy Blast 3, bind this card, choose a Fox art card with a different card name from this card in your drop, put it to your hand. That's, you know, that's pretty decent. You can still blast this out and it actually gives you some value in drop. It ironically doesn't specify Tamayura, so for whatever reason, there's a Fox art that you can play in a non-Tamayura deck. You can actually have access to this, but I doubt that that's the case. What would this look like in a deck? Well, it'll look a little something like this, which is basically exactly the same as the Tamayura deck that's been being played since set 11 and basically since its inception. The only real core difference here is that I've added in the new order over the broken toys. I feel like they kind of do the same thing. Personally, I think broken toys is better, but I think this might in practice end up being better, if that makes sense. I'd have to really, I'm curious to see it and test it out once it's released in English. We're also trying out here the new soul fronts that came out. Oh, that comes out in this same set 6. These are fronts that are 0k. When you guard with them in guardian circle, instead of getting retired and going to drop, they go into your soul. Or I guess after they get retired, they go into your soul. However that works, but you get the general idea, right? So we're trying that out. I saw a topping list for Tamayura with the new format in Japan, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. The list was basically the same as this for the most part. The only difference is that they reduced some of the counts of the draws to play something like the defensive roar, and also to play the Shinri, which makes a lot of sense because she is stealth and you can search her out from the deck, which I will probably adjust my list to do so. I just couldn't really find how I wanted to do that ratio wise, but you can call her out, right? Add her to hand, call her out. She automatically has her effect active because you played an order to get her in the first place. But other than that, the list is exactly the same as basically as it's always been. Which is pretty interesting, and we have the Fire Regalis here as well. With that said, what do I think of Tamayura's support card? I guess it's meh, right? It's like fine. It doesn't do anything crazy. I wish it let you, if it let you add a sentiment, I feel like that would make the deck pretty good in a way that wouldn't make it egregiously, you know, broken or toxic or anything like that. So the sentiment restriction seems kind of silly for me, especially considering stuff like other decks are able to do that with their unit specific PGs, like Shadow Paladins are able to add their PG with no problem. You know, Sir Joji is able to just use his PGs however he wants. I don't understand why Tamayura can't do the same. So yeah, this is a bit meh for me. With that, let's take a look at Kheios, who's probably my least favorite of all of these, with the Temptations of the Beginning Blitz Order. So you can only play this if you have a Vanguard that is Kheios, and if you have 13 or more cards with different card names in your soul. So for the most part, you can only use this on turn 3. So you should have just made this a grade 3 order, but I guess you can turbo your soul to turn 2 for no real payoff aside from this. You can also play this for your soul, and when you do end up playing this for no cost, it just becomes a 15k shield. That's it. You have to have a specific Vanguard and at least 13 cards, and they all have to have different names in your soul. All of that for just 15k shield. Could have been a little bit more, just a tiny, like even 20k. I would have been like, all right, that's not bad. Then it says has this continuous effect that just basically says whenever you reveal it by the effect of your chaos, that only looks at normal units and triggers, you treat this as a normal unit, so you can put it to soul. I forget which one it is. I think it's the grade 1. Whenever you ride the grade 2 of it, you reveal the top 2, you put triggers on the bottom, you put normal units into your deck. And then if it's like an order, I think it just fucking stays on top of your deck, right? Because it's neither of the two. But now it actually goes to soul, which is alright. You know, one of the things I don't like about this order is that it's grade 2 and you can't really use it until grade 3. If this was like grade 1, then you could use it in the early game, because this deck really, it rushes a lot and it doesn't have any real way to defend itself either early in the game or even later in the game. So just having it, if it's like it's getting rushed, to be able to guard with it, I don't think would have been that big of a deal. Or if like after you play this goes into soul and you can't use it from soul instead or something like that, that wouldn't have been half bad. Or even if it like counted as different names when it's in soul as well, but I feel like that might be a bit much, I guess. With that said, build, considering that it's chaos, I literally just slot in 1 copy of it and it just fits in just nicely. I also slot in the Fire Regalis, which you'll see in all of these builds, and I also slot in 1 copy of the rare that searches out a glitter. because I feel like Kheios can use these pretty good, right? You can just go ahead and play this, look at top 5, get him a Connie, put him into Soul. He adds an extra name to Soul, which is pretty good. Even if you whiff, you have like a 10k attacker that you can maybe rush your opponent with, which I think is pretty good. Unfortunately, I am playing the character triggers, which even though they are $100 each and extremely hard to get access to, that is the most optimal way to play the deck. I feel like you can also add one of the Soul fronts. I don't know what you would change it out for this, because of the way these triggers work, where they technically have 2 different names. Same thing with this Lemme here, so that's why I'm using that one specifically. Because they have 2 different names, you can count them as 2 different cards in your Soul, so it's 2 cards for 1. So I don't know what you would take out. Maybe another crit, but I feel like you want your crits, so maybe even a heal or a draw, I don't know. But it makes sense to me to play those Soul fronts. Other than that, the deck is relatively the same, completely unchanged. At least the Tamayura one kind of had some nuance. This one is just like, hey, sometimes I have a Blitz order, which they already had access to with Walk the Dark, right? The only difference is that that's Energy Blast 3, but this deck doesn't really use energy aside from Tizark, so it doesn't really matter. And it can be played from Soul. So I'm going to instantly give this a thumbs down. Not super psyched about this, wish they could have given this a lot more love and care. Just like they did for the next one here. The Passive Captivity, which is my favorite of all of these support cards for the Cray Cross Epic decks. The art is beautiful. Cannot wait to have this in SR. This is a set order that is also a research order that you can only play if you have a Glitter with Eva in its card name. Then in the order zone, so you don't get any effect from actually playing it, but in the order zone you can then activate it, and it says once per turn, when one of your glitters is either placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you can have that unit get 5k. So it's not the first time, it's just whenever once per turn you can give something 5k. Then it has a very great second skill that says act in your order zone. You can Soul Blast 1, rest this card, choose a glitter from your drop, put it on the bottom of your deck. So this allows you to put back your Cross Ride Poison in Paradise Eva. This allows you to Soul Blast out that Eva that is in your Soul, because you skip right into her, then you ride into the original one. Poison Paradise is in your Soul. You can Soul Blast her out, take that same card, put it on the bottom of your deck. Then you can use Immigar to then, skip ride back into her, which I think is insanely good. This actually does a lot for the deck. So I did build this list roughly, like I said, way back then when this is revealed in English, but there was a Japanese player in the Japanese, I think, Nationals that recently got 3rd with Eva with a very similar list. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the shoulder for having a pretty close list to that. The only difference is, of course, they don't play the Boba Mine. Right, I play the Boba Mine because I'm a weirdo and I don't really like that weird antenna guy with the arcade stick. They play that instead. And instead of this guy and like a little bit of changes to the order, they play 3 of a new card, which is the Pride Cyclers from set 7, which gives you the Persona Ride ticket, right? I obviously don't have access to that for English set 6. But yeah, this is what the list looks like. It's pretty much the same Eva list as has been going on before. It's just that you add in 2 copies of this order and you're good to go. You no longer need to play that little monster that bot decks one of your cards and then Soul Blast 3 to draw. But you now have easy access to that. It frees up maybe a little bit of deck space as well. This works really well with the Freezing Wave as well, right? Because it does rest itself. And you can change out the Bowl Mine for that one monster that everyone plays that I don't really like, but it is what it is. I instead play this guy, which I'm not a big fan of either too much, right? Because this guy is like Soul Blast. He gets power for like grades that you have. He can get like, I think like 15k. Fine. I'm sure it's good. He's just never come up, maybe because I only play like 2 copies of him. But pretty easy to say. Absolutely love this. I wish all of the orders that the Cray Cross Epic units got was of this level of support, because it actually fixes a problem that the deck has and actually helps it and gives it a little bit extra, and is not cumbersome to play, right? Absolutely perfect. But then we move on to the very last one here, which is unfortunately for Thegrea. I was really hoping that Thegrea would get something really cool and insane this set when they were revealing the stuff for it. It's just this. It's just Encouragement from the Past, which is a normal order that you can only play if you have Thegrea, but you have to pay the cost of Counterblast 1. This is the only one of these that actually has a cost, right? Aside from, I guess, having a requirement, or the Eva one having to Soul Blast or rest itself for its effect, which is not really a cost because you kind of want that because it benefits you, right? Then this lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard. Call it to Vanguard Circle Shot for your deck. So this is basically just the Light Thegrea's effect, except it's instead of top 5, it's top 7, and you can call a grade 3 because it's Thegrea skill. Even though it's a deck that focuses on grade 3, you cannot call out grade 3s because it has to be grade 2 or less. Sure. Then it has a skill in drop that says you can Energy Blast 3, remove this card, choose a normal unit with Thegrea in its card name from your bind zone, put into your hand. This effect is pretty good because this allows you to use your Epi the Justice Thegrea's effect and then immediately get her back so that you can next turn ride over her again, which is really good. It allows you to more consistently do that. So that part of the effect is good. I feel like they could have splurged a little bit more on this effect, right? Top 7 is nice, but you know, the fact that it's already Counterblast is kind of heavy. They could have at least copied what the actual Thegrea does, which is that look at top 7 and call 1, but if you have like, they could have just worded it if you have like 2 different named Thegreas in your soul, choose 2 cards instead of 1. So it's literally exactly the same. Which, you know, when I first saw this, it was starting to give me the impression that maybe they want me to play the Dark Thegrea in Soul instead. Use this to have access to the Light Thegrea's main effect to call stuff out. Because that's really all you use her for. You don't typically use her effect to restand unless, like, you know, you've gone so far into the chain that that's just what you're stuck with. So that was an interesting thought, but if they had done that, it would have made it a lot bit more plausible, right? If you could just call 2 units at least. But that said, this is the deck that I've been struggling the most to figure out, honestly. This and Tamayura, I'm really looking forward to playtesting and figuring out. Eva, I'm really looking forward to just playing because, you know, the list is basically, I don't want to say solved, but like it makes sense and you can play it really quickly. Kheios is exactly the same. And Rorowa, I don't know if I'll bother playing that. I originally didn't care about it because I was like, I don't want to pay $100 or whatever for playsets of his Skip Rider, but now that it doesn't even play it and I have all the other cards, maybe I'll give it a shot. But this is what the deck I have looks like. So the main thing that happens here is that I am playing the Dark Magenta Blooming Hatred here because I just really like this card. Because what happens here is that Thegrea is really good going second because you can use the Skip Rider to Persona Ride, right? But the Skip Rider only works going second because it only works for your opponents on grade 3 or greater. Dark Blooming Magenta lets you do the same thing but going first. So the game plan here is to go into the Obligator Dragon instead of Thegrea's card, because that one forces you to Soul Blast 1 and discard. This is only discard 1, and you can use this on turn 1, I guess, if you really want to. But this says you discard 1, search a order from your deck, and you can activate it from your drop, right? You put it into your drop and you can activate it. You search out, if you're going first, you search out the Blooming Hatred, put that into the order zone, Counterblast 1, draw 1. The next turn, what you can do is, if you're lucky and you, from the grade 2 Thegrea, maybe you'll search out the Oath of Vengeance Thegrea, which is over here, right? And then what happens is you ride into your Light Thegrea, boom, you have this here, and you hopefully have a Justice Thegrea at least, right? What you can do is you can use Dark Magenta to ride into your Justice Thegrea. It doesn't count as Persona Ride, and it's not going to activate her skill to search out a Thegrea from your deck, but what you can do with it is that you can activate her skill to bind herself and then activate Persona Ride while going first, which is pretty good. Otherwise, you go through the normal game plan of just ride up and then use this guy to skip ride into Justice Thegrea, then activate her skill in order to Persona Ride, right? On that turn, and then next turn, you ideally ride this from hand, right? Using the new order to remove it. Remove itself, grab this from bind. That same turn that you use her, the next turn you Persona Ride. Ideally activate this, right? Have the double draw from the Persona Ride, the double or the 15k to your front row, and then you use her skill, bind her to probably ride into this from your soul, because the Justice now copies the name of the light, so it becomes light over dark. You can restand that turn, and then you activate Persona Ride, so 30k to your front row, and you draw another card, right? That's the main game plan. What do I think about this support card? it like comes down. I think it was a cute idea, but I feel like the deck needs a lot more for me personally, because I'm not a big fan of the way the direction the deck has gone since sort of set 11. Even set 8, they really didn't do much for the deck. Like, the deck was pretty interesting when it came out, and they kind of, similar to Rorowa, kind of abandoned that coolness for it and then just kind of made it go down this one straightforward path where it's just like, all right, you're just gonna Persona right twice in the turn and that's it. You don't really have anything else cool. You don't even get cool rear guards that do cool things. No. You just Persona ride twice, and whatever the fuck you have on board, that's what you're working with, right? Because they have 30k, so that's all you really need, kind of deal. I don't really like that. Hopefully I can, you know, find some sort of other build that works for me. But as of right now, I'm not really happy the way Thegrea plays. And this order doesn't really help, and instead enforces that type of playstyle, I feel like. With that said, that is the final Cray Cross Epic review. I hope you guys enjoy set 6. I have made sure to not test too much, right, and look at too much of the cards, so I'm very excited to test this out myself or play it myself once it finally comes out. But in any case, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you've actually played these decks, if you actually tested them, what are your thoughts on them? And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Play Vanguard and have yourselves a damn good one.